that conversation this morning. Now, the presence of thousands of Pakistani nationals in the country has continued to elicit debate, with questions being raised over their status and their perceived extreme freedom that has seen them roam about freely within the city estates and the roads. Now, the government has since indicated that the controversial foreigners are on transit to Saudi Arabia and will only be here for a 2-week quarantine period before proceeding with their journey. Let's take a look.
Reports have it that on Wednesday evening, police laid siege on nearly 30 hotels across the city of Nairobi, where an estimated 5,000 Pakistani nationals had been residing for more than a week. The foreigners were then bundled into tents of buses and driven to Wayakiville Gardens apartments, where their travel and identification documents were scrutinized and verified.
You know, there was a rumor that a lot of people are here illegally. And most of these people have come through the airports. They've applied for visas, they've had visas, they've had stamps in their passport, so they're all legally over here. So, you know, what the police could have done is just ask them for their passport, just look at the stamp that they have visas, and let them go.
And although the police swoop was sparked by uproar from Kenyans on social media, the move might have done very little to pacify the situation. There has not been any explanation as to why the foreigners, despite being here on quarantine, they have been roaming freely, interacting and mingling with the locals in estates and in the streets. Interestingly, the presence of the Pakistanis in the country forced the government to break its own directives on the use of school buses to transport individuals or groups of people other than school children. More than 5 buses from public schools were involved in the transportation of the foreigners from Wayakiville Gardens to their hotel rooms. Since their arrival more than a week ago, they have been seen in Athi River, Buruburu, Kasarani, Ongata Rongai and Syokimau. Those who spoke to us confirmed that they were traveling to Saudi Arabia to work as plumbers and to offer other unskilled labor on a salary of between 30,000 to 50,000 Kenya shillings. Kenya was listed among 3 African countries for exit for people traveling to the Middle East and United Arab Emirates, UAE.
They're genuinely here for not any other purpose. They're here for transit. They're transiting to Saudi Arabia. You see, Saudi Arabia has put a law that anybody traveling to, maybe a resident or a visitor, they have to quarantine outside Pakistan or certain countries for about 14 days.
The foreigners indicated that they had the option of making their journey through Dubai or Bahrain, but the 2 stations are closed. They also said that being in Kenya was cheaper and more affordable to most of them. Yet, save for the directive by Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kibicho that a crackdown on illegal immigrants be mounted, the government has been reluctant to give full details regarding the presence of thousands of Pakistani nationals in the country and how they gained entry. Shadrach Miti, KTN News.
All right, this is a developing story, and there's still concern, especially on the aspects that have been raised by you, the Kenyans. Yesterday, a senior police officer said that the immigrants are legally in the country. And, of course, Kenya moved to impose a freeze on a free transit plan it has with Pakistan. A very interesting story that definitely until they leave the country, especially now that you see them within the city estates, there's a lot of concern. Professor George Wajakoya now joins us live. He's an immigration lawyer. We have seen him take quite some cases on immigration. Thank you, Prof, for joining us this morning. Before I begin asking you about the immigration issue with the Pakistani, there's also a very interesting story developing here in the country about the suspect who was charged with defrauding the government public funds for about 180 million shillings. I'm looking at that judgment first, and it interests me. 27 years, Professor, or about 720 million shillings that needs to be paid back to the government. There are other sentences without an option of a fine. Just your reflection as a lawyer on the outcome of that case. I know he still has 14 days to appeal.
Thank you very much, and I don't know whether you get me clearly. I'm here in Mumias. I wonder whether the weather here is very good. First of all, on that particular case, I read about it this morning. but I didn't go into nitty-gritty. But 27 years sentence is nothing. What the courts ought to have done, in my opinion, is for the man to return back every penny that he stole from public coffers plus interest, and then a jail sentence on top of that. Because if he goes in jail without an option of a fine, what is likely to happen is that, and knowing our court system, which is one of the most corrupt court systems in the world, the man might now do the Waluke way, the former MP for Sirisia, go in and do frivolous appeals, appeal after the appeal, and when the situation cools, you'll find the man coming out. So the question...
Okay, we're still on hold with Professor George Wajakoya. I think we have a small challenge with that connection. As soon as we get back, Professor, but we're talking about the 720 million shilling fine by the court because of the... okay, Prof, we have you back now. We lost you a little bit. Please proceed.
Yes, what I was saying is that the fine alone, whether it's 50 years, 60 years, does not really make any sense. The issue here is, can he refund back the money plus the interest? And then can those who are accomplices be investigated and also be arraigned before the court? That is the question. Because if he's out on his own, and if he's been taken into custody on his own, the question is, what are the perimeters behind him? Who are the people behind him? Do you have big shots in the government who are shielding him? We have to find out.
Very interesting.
Thank you.
Prof, do you see that in the appeal, possible appeal, do you see that amount coming down, even the years being commuted to a little lesser, now that this case has been on for about 4 years? Do you see it coming down?
I will not be surprised if the man will be acquitted on flimsy health grounds.
Okay.
I don't trust Kenyan judges today. Some of them are very corrupt, and I don't know why they are on the bench. You'll find out if you look at a series of cases that have taken place, Waluke's case included. Yes. You find out that the person was jailed for quite a long time, and now he's out roaming, pending appeal. Appeals in Kenya take forever. Look at Chicken Gate case, where guys who are accomplices in London were arraigned before the Crown Court in England, sentenced, served their sentence, and they are free. And in the Kenyan system, what is happening?
We haven't
even begun. The case has not even been concluded.
Yes.
So I don't have any trust in our judicial system. I'm sorry. I'm one of those lawyers who can be hanged upside down. But our judicial system is very, very, very corrupt.
Okay. And finally, on this aspect, this particular one, Prof, what is the rationale for 720? I know you say 27 years is nothing. It should even be 50. What is the rationale? 180 million, I know there's the interest aspect of it, but 720 looks a little bit at the top because owing to the amount that is being charged with.
Well, if you steal an egg in Kenya, you go in for maximum. If you take an apple, if you're working in a supermarket and you are caught, the definition of theft is very simple. Taking away something that belongs to another person with the intent to deprive of the person permanently. But here is a man who has deprived the Kenyans, 40 million Kenyans, of their money. The case has been going on for a very long time. One of the suspects died, whichever circumstances we don't know. And now if you look at the man's age and look at how much money he has invested and where he has invested that money, that's why we need investigating officers to be given powers to follow up the property in offshore accounts so that this money can be returned. So whatever it is, the Kenyan judiciary is rotten.
Okay. And by now, we hope that the asset recovery must have moved in to recover his property that was frozen during this case, because that's what happened. They preserved the property until the case is over. So we also expect that that should have happened by now, right?
Well, if they haven't recovered it, and if they have not told Kenyans how much they have recovered, what kind of nonsense is this for now them to go after the money to recover it now after the fact? That is something that Kenyans should be asking these fellows.
Okay. Very interesting. Thank you for joining or chiming on that discussion, which was away from what we wanted to discuss, which is the influx of the Pakistani. I'll start right from yesterday, what the government explained, that the immigrants are legally here in the country. And, of course, Kenya has also moved to impose a freeze on free transit plan it has with other Pakistan. Can Kenya unilaterally, because I understand this is an international issue, this is a diplomatic issue, can Kenya decide today that we are freezing this aspect of transit plan with the Pakistani?
First of all, the Pakistani government, led by Imran Khan, who is my personal friend, is a good government. And when it comes to international diplomacy, yes, Kenyans are obligated to do what they ought to do under international law on humanitarian grounds. Now, the situation in the Middle East has changed the whole perception. We have the Afghanians who are putting on those bombs and going to other countries as Pakistanis. And having worked in that region as an immigration attorney many years ago, for several years, let me put it that way, you'll find out that Pakistanis and Nigerians are part of the most conduit routes in the world.
Okay.
The question I want to ask is this: why should they choose Kenya? That is number one. Number two, what are immigration officers doing? Number three, has the national security team authorized their movement through Kenya? And number four, have they put tenants? Why can't they come in and be quarantined at their own expense for 14 days and then be released so that we cannot have them roaming our states? Okay. Pakistanis are well known for money laundering and wash. That's why you'll see a lot of car shops along Ngong Road and other parts of the world. They hide their money within that. But coming to the question that you have said, why can't they use another country? And I will also say it this way today. The immigration as a department under Mr. Mteshi has done well. Mr. Mteshi has done well, but there are still some rotten apple in the immigration who ought to be removed. Why are they allowing these people in, and who has given them that authority to allow them to come in without quarantine? Okay. Look at the issue of COVID. Pakistan is one of the countries on the red list, not even amber list. When they go to the UK, they quarantine for 14 days. So are Kenyans. Why would we carry somebody's luggage? They should have been stopped at the airport and then taken to a camp, whereby, and then pay for it so that we can discourage others. Otherwise, okay, Kenya is going to be a conduit of heroin, which is actually transits from Afghanistan through Pakistan to India, to Saudi Arabia, and to Europe. So this issue of the immigration coming to hide or statements coming out from the office of the president is all immaterial. Okay. What Kibicho should be explaining to the country is why are they there and why are they allowed and how much are they paying and what measures have been taken to combat COVID, especially from these people. Why are they on our streets? Okay.
Very interesting. I'm getting to that, why they are on the street shortly, Prof. But let me take you a little bit back. And would you describe what kind of free transit plan means? What is this arrangement legally or in law? What does it entail, free transit plan with a particular country?
When it comes to international law, and when it comes to international law governing anti-narcotics and terrorism, most countries have put very stringent measures on transit, where they have said that they have slapped people from other countries, designated countries, with a transit visa, which must be paid before they leave, with the quarantining methods. But where a country comes in and says that we shall give them leeway and room for them to transit for free, then who is footing that bill? Who is footing that bill? Kenya is a very poor country. We are depending on foreign currency. And this is the only way we could have actually levied some monies from these people so that we can improve our economy and improve security infrastructure. Yes. But when they come in and they say, free transit, come on, give me a break. Can we have something like free transit where? We need that money. We need revenue. We need KRA to come in and even tax what they are carrying. But somebody in Uhuru's government has to bear the blame. Somebody in Uhuru's government has come out to account to the millions of Kenyans, including myself, how he arrived at that decision. Why is Parliament keeping quiet on this matter? Why is the Parliamentary Committee on international issues or on immigration keeping quiet? Why can't they call the Director General of Immigration and Mr. Kibicho, particularly at this, and where there was a couple of minutes from the National Security Intelligence to find out whether that was something that was sanctioned by the government.
So it means basically, if I get you right, Professor, is that the Pakistani, apart from perhaps the hosting fee that they are paying in terms of hotels, also there is nothing the government is benefiting, and by translation, there's nothing that comes down to the common mwananchi apart from the expenditure they have to incur to live in Kenya. Immigration is not getting any money from them. That's what a free transit plan means.
Well, Well, probably we have some corrupt immigration officers who are indirectly benefiting from this episode. But what I know is that had they been given stringent rules to guide people who transit through, especially from those countries that have been banned from going to the US because of COVID, that have been banned from going to the UK, then the best way the government could have benefited from them is to pay directly to the government to choose sites for them to live, like what happens in the UK.
Yes.
I'm a UK resident, but when I went to UK recently, I had to pay monies through the British government to choose a hotel for me. And that should equally be applied in Kenya, whereby the government can benefit. It's only a few people, few corrupt officers who are benefiting at the expense of somebody from Uhuru's government who is issuing this kind of orders that are maiming our health system, maiming our economy, polluting our moral duties, and promoting who is behind them, and whether they are bringing in drugs on pretext of going to Saudi Arabia. Why can't they fly to Saudi?
Why can't they fly to Saudi directly? They say that those avenues for flying to Saudi is probably blocked. But let me
directly from us.
Yeah, let me break down the numbers for you, Professor. 2,000 of them currently in the country. What would it take to have 2,000 Pakistanis in the country at one go? Because when the government explains that they'll be here only for about 10 days or for 2 weeks quarantine period, it means they traveled in at the same time. What would it take to have 2,000 immigrants in the country? And the concern is where they're living. They're mingling freely with Kenyans. We have pictures of them spotted as far as marketplaces within the country and within the CBD. They're on the street. They are moving all over. So quarantine means staying at one place for those 14 days, and then once you're cleared, you travel. But what we see is they're all over. What would it take to have 2,000 of them at once in the capital? That's our 747. Probably 3 trips.
What if I change the perception of that story in the following manner? What if I say that these are Afghanis who are in the government that has been overthrown, now putting on the Pakistani jab and running away to cause more terrorism? What about that? What about if they are running away from their country to look for a place where they can go and they start waging guerrilla war against their country? How sure are we? Are they the parties? Parties are both in Afghanistan and Pakistan. They're the largest tribe in that place. And secondly, Pakistan has been harboring a lot of fugitives from Afghanistan, pegged on the relationship that they have, given the fact that they have cultural identity, diversity, and what have you. What if there were people who are coming in the country running away, and instead of claiming asylum as refugees, they're coming in as Pakistanis? That's another aspect we have to look at.
Okay.
Number 2, what is our national security intelligence doing? We have one of the best national security intelligence in the world. I think they have answers. But then at the end of the day, who is giving this? Is it some kind of international accord between Pakistani government and Kenya government to bring in fugitives who are running away after having been overthrown by the Mujahideens? I have a very big history because I worked with Hek Matyar, one of the former assassinated leaders of prime ministers of Afghanistan, and I knew how they used to operate. Okay. So we need to look beyond them roaming our streets to find out whether they want to use our country as a landing pad to launch war on Afghanistan.
Very interesting way to look at it, Prof. But away from the Pakistani, there are several countries that make this kind of arrangement. You are a United Kingdom citizen, for example. Kenyans who are going to the UK, who are trying to quarantine, who are trying to avoid that compulsory quarantine period in the UK, which is very costly, between 365,000 and about 500,000 for each Kenyan who's going to the UK. The UK has a separate agreement with the United Arab Emirates. If you go through Dubai, for example, you're not likely to spend that amount of money there, and you're not going to spend the 14 days compulsory quarantine because they have a separate agreement with the United Arab Emirates. I mean, these agreements are all over the world. Why would we fault Kenya for having such an agreement with Pakistan?
Well, there is nothing impossible. You know, Kenya is a land of opportunity and corruption and corrupt leadership. If a corrupt cabinet secretary or a top guy gets money, you'll see what happened to the refugee camps in Kakuma, where somebody just stood up and said, we are closing the refugee camps in Kakuma and Dadaab because of national security. And you can see the condemnation that came in from the international community. You can also see how Kenyans went to court to say, look, you are obligated by Article 2(1)A of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, 1951. Anything can happen in that country. People there are looking for money. If people can steal, they can steal even from foreigners and even dead bodies. Therefore, I'm not very surprised. I'm not very surprised if what you are telling me is true, that Kenya has got a static agreement with Dubai, which actually contravenes the World Health Organization code on COVID. If that is the case, then what do we do? What do we do? We as Kenyans, we have to stand up for our country and tell the government that here you are wrong. I'm a Kenyan, I have local standard, and whatever you are saying, whatever you are doing injures me. And that's why you see that kind of development that has been developed by the Indian courts in the case of Kerala, when Justice Bhagwati actually removed the issue of local standards and told Indians that if there is something by the government that if affects any Indian wherever he is, anyone can go to court. Okay. And you are willing to go to court because that is wrong. Okay. That is wrong to allow these people to walk aimlessly in our streets without actually having COVID regulations.
Okay. One of the things, Professor, as I let you go, that I am unable to determine right now, but I think it's past a week now. In the next week or so, they should be able to leave the country, or they should leave the country. I'm just wondering, Prof, do you see them leaving in 14 days? This is a hypothetical question. And now that you have faulted the government for this, and probably there's some games being played at the top, because initially this explanation should have come really early. They should have been contained, not in the residential area. We have hotels in the country that can accommodate 2,000 or within the capital. In 14 days' time, what is the likely scenario, Professor?
Well, one of the scenarios that is very simple is this. Number one, the UK is going to put more stringent on Kenyans traveling to the UK because of the influx from Pakistan.
Okay.
Coming to Kenya, where Pakistan has been put forward, red listed as a country with too much corona. That's number one. Number two, I don't see any policing method. I don't see any policing method. I don't see anyone with the lack of infrastructure and corruption accompanying lack of infrastructure, whether the government is going to do anything. They should be rounded up right now and put in a military camp. We have so many camps in the country which are empty. They should be rounded up, put up, and then let doctors examine them, observe them. Once they are found to be COVID positive, then they should be quarantined at their own pace. If not, then they should be asked to leave the country. That's my stand, because this issue is actually interfering with our national social fabric. It's interfering with our political what have you, and it's causing mayhem in the country.
Okay. Prof, these individuals, the 2,000 of them, have proper documentation. They have proper papers to travel. One of the things that the story we raised was that they are going to their next destination, that is Saudi Arabia, and the kind of jobs they are doing there, because some said they have been working in Saudi Arabia, are jobs that earn you 30,000 shillings, that earn you 50,000 shillings. These guys are here. There's also the speculation that they might likely remain in Kenya and try and look for opportunities within, now that they've already mingled with people in the residential areas. Is this something that is also at the top of your mind, that there are some who decide, no, we don't have to proceed, 30,000, 50,000, we can make it right here in Kenya?
The thing is, first of all, do they have visas to Saudi Arabia? That's number one. If the answer is yes, then they should actually be bundled in the aircraft after 14 days at their own expense and go. But secondly, are they using Kenya as a hub of human trafficking to other destinations? That is the key question that somebody should be asking. If Kenya is becoming the hub, like we had during the Sri Lanka issue where Tamils were fighting with the Senegalese, Kenya was used as a conduit, a route to Europe. Whether, hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you, Prof.
Yes. Yeah, there's some phones that are coming in. I hope you wouldn't mind. No, so the question that we need to ask ourselves is Kenya becoming a hub of rerouting these people to other destinations?
Okay.
And why is it that this has only come up after the Mujahideen have taken over Afghanistan?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Prof, Thank you for your time. Thank you very much, Professor George Wajakoya, speaking to us right there from Mumias, live on the Pakistani issue and the influx. Thank you, Prof, for speaking to us this morning. Let's hope the government is straightforward with this and the explanations they are giving Kenyans actually can hold some water, because we understand that the government has now imposed a freeze on the free transit plan it has with the Pakistani government. And yesterday we were told also by a senior police officer that they are legally right here in the country. Will they use this as a transit point, just what it's intended to be, or will some remain in Kenya? Big question that perhaps we'll be asking. That's why I said at the beginning that this is a developing story, and we'll definitely be checking for you in 14 days. Will all the 2,000 plus any other coming into the country, will they leave or they stay here? Remember, they're not traveling directly to Saudi Arabia because they had been listed as a red zone. Yet Kenya has accommodated them under the international agreement, and it's a responsibility of Kenya to host them anyway. Time now to take a short break. When we come back, on the other side, the politics, we put them right to the center with News Center this morning. We'll be speaking to Joseph Simeha. He's a policy expert or analyst or commentator, and he's also a political commentator. We're speaking to him next on several issues happening. Remember, KANU delegates, the foundation, that's the Mount Kenya Foundation, is meeting other OCA leaders today. IBC has a meeting. We'll try to see what Chris Sairo has for us, or from the other side, and the other stories shaping up the day. So we're looking at all the